All right, Vince. You know what I'm going to ask you?
And I'm ready for it.
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go. I'm going to bang the table like Max Bulla. Ready for rapid fire. Let's go.
Were you impressed with were you happy? Were you like were you happy with the Max Bulla
Look, he
audio
doesn't
today?
mince words. I love it. He is like he's not just like, giving everybody the playbook and like the depth chart, but he's also very open. He's like, these guys are doing this guy's doing that.
Yeah.
You don't have to read between the lines a whole lot. I'll say that, which I do enjoy. I do.
I agree. And like you could tell that he wasn't like searching to find things to say about
Right.
these guys. He knew what he wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knew exactly what he wanted to say. Okay. So we're going to hear from a few other coaches here to start off rapid fire. We talked with defensive line coach Al Washington recently. Here's what he had to say about rising sophomore defensive end Bryce Young.
He is a beast, man. Like I think he is. I think how close is he to taking a next big step? Man, he's very close. I think with him, man, I got to check myself. He's still a freshman in his freshman year. He played a substantial amount this year. I think the thing he is doing is working on the details of his craft. There's still much to learn. You think about as a freshman, where you go from a freshman to a junior, that's like a tremendous jump. And so his mindset is just focused on the details. So I think he is a beast. Obviously, he's talented. His mental makeup's elite, but that's his focus right now.
All right, Vince, hearing that means blank to you.
Look, it means Bryce Young is going to have a breakout year. I mean, and he had for all intents and purposes, kind of had a breakout year last year as a freshman. I think he gave more than anybody anticipated that he was going to give, but that was just on sheer athletic ability. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
now with some more time and he's starting to hone his craft, get some moves and get some, the technicalities of the position and, that kind of stuff. And he's going to be counted on more in the defense. I think you're going to see a whole nother level of who Bryce Young could be. And again, the following year, you're probably going to see a whole other level again, So pure athletic ability as a freshman. Now you're going to see some of that training, some of that Al Washington coaching. Because I think, look, and it's nothing against Al. Like, I think as a freshman, you're just kind of pointing him in the right direction. Like, you just want to make sure he gets lined up right. And it's like, see ball, get ball. Like, just go, dude.
Right.
Now you start the progression, you start the training, you start, this is where you need to be and this is why, all that kind of stuff. And then some of the technicalities as well. So I think you're going to see a big jump freshman to sophomore year. That's exciting.
By the way, his dad, Bryant Young, of course, the former Notre Dame All-American and Hall of Famer, rolled through the IAC last week. We saw him coming out, and I saw this guy, kind of walking. I was like, "Hold it, is that Bryant Young?" And then kind of look, I was like, "That was freaking Bryant Young just came right out of here." That was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see him. But like Washington, one, he already is a beast, and to hear Washington say that, and then in the next breath talk about the fact you got to remember this guy is still a freshman. Like this is still his freshman year right now, and it seems like he's probably been here for at least 2, if not 3 years already, as long as the season went. And then everything that he was able to accomplish. Didn't have huge sack numbers of 1.5 sacks, nice for a freshman, but it just feels like him in the weight room, in this program that Notre Dame has, adding a little, a few more pounds of muscle, kind of like what we were talking about with Jaden Osbury earlier, like just helps take him to that, because he's obviously got the build and the frame and the lineage and everything else, the athleticism, everything is just through the roof. And you add those little things, and I think it's kind of underrated, because again, like we were talking about Jalen Sneed, putting on, the extra 15 pounds or whatever. Like looking at some of these guys, the way they look, and, you look at how some of those guys tested, like at pro day and the combine and stuff like that. The job that Lauren Lando has done for a guy who's, been kind of mixed reviews, for the most part in the year that he's been on campus because of the, whatever, people wanted to kind of take from his time with the Denver Broncos. Like, to me, I've seen nothing but good things come out of that so far. And I think that, again, you apply that to a guy with the talent of a guy like Bryce Young. I think that I agree with what you're saying. We're going to see a breakout type year from him this upcoming fall.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to watch is what it's going to be.
Yep. So new Irish defensive coordinator Chris Ash talked about just being a defensive coordinator since coming here to Notre Dame and not having a position group to work with like he has in his other stops.
In my past, I've always coached a position group. This is the first time that I have coordinated as a walk-around guy.
Right.
And there's pros and cons to every situation. The pro here of doing it this way is you kind of can be the head coach of the defense, and you can go into different meetings. You can watch the drills. You get to see all the players instead of just the ones that you coach outside of the film. And I love that. I watch guys get coached. I can see who can listen and respond to the coaching. I get to watch the different drills. I can help coaches with their drills from a different perspective. So I think there's a lot of advantages to it.
Chris Ash, a little bit of a low talker, doesn't help when he has Mike Denbrock sitting 4 feet away from him, talking to another media gaggle.
I thought that's who that was.
But, so to the point though, what do you think? Do you think that it's good that Ash doesn't have a position group that he's working with, that he can be that walk around guy like he's talking about there?
100%. There's really no downside to it, in my opinion. I was a coordinator, and I've been a coordinator with positions to coach. I've been a coordinator without a position to coach. Now, when you don't have a position, you tend to drift towards certain position groups, depending on where you think they might need you. You know what I mean? For the one team when I did it is I tended to drift more towards the offensive line because they needed an extra coach down there. And if your offensive line can't block, it doesn't really matter what plays you're calling. So,
very true.
So that's what I would do. Now, defensively, you drift wherever you need to be. You know what I mean? And I think that is a big time advantage when you are trying to coordinate one side of the ball or the other. You can go where you're needed. You can see different things on different days. If a coach is struggling, you can go help him. Whatever the case may be, it gives you the freedom to do those things. And I think that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
I think so too, especially this year. His specialty is secondary. That's his background. And obviously, that you've got Mike Mickens and you don't have to worry about the secondary. So that's a huge help from that aspect. But the fact that as a new coordinator you're trying to learn everybody and you want to get familiar with everybody, and it gives you a chance to kind of get in there, without probably being overbearing about it, and just being able to, to kind of, like you said, whether it's in the film room or the position rooms or whatever it happens to be, or floating around at practice, it just gives him an opportunity for everybody to get familiar with each other. And you don't have to think about, oh, I'm neglecting my position group by doing this, or, I'm leaving it to somebody else. You've got an elite secondary coach, so you don't have to worry about it. Like I do one, like you said, you used to gravitate to the offensive line. Do you think that because secondary is his background, like, do you think that maybe he, would you gravitate more to what you're familiar with in that aspect? Or would you feel like maybe, like you'd be making your assistant coach feel like you're looking over his shoulder all the time?
Obviously, there's a happy medium there, and he knows the reputation of Mike Mickens, and so he's not going to step on any toes. But I think early on, I think he is going to be over towards the secondary a little bit until he's comfortable with Mike Mickens and what he's doing and what, how he's coaching him up and, all of those kinds of things, right? I mean, you can have the best reputation in the world, but as a coordinator, I still feel like you need to see it with your own eyes. You know what I mean? And I think that would be the case for me. I would probably or maybe I want to hang down there just to see what all the buzz is about. Why is he such a good guy? Why is he such a good coach?
Yeah.
I want to see it, maybe I could learn a couple things from him, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I do. It
was funny because at the first practice that we got to go to, Trevor was sitting next to me, our own Trevor Trowbridge, of course. And he was like, I can't find Chris Ash. Is he out there? And then I looked to my right and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him standing between those two guys over there. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, I can't find Chris Ash again. I'm like, dude, he's out there. He's just on the move. He's roaming all over the place.
Yeah.
He really was. He was very active, getting all over the field there on day one. So what do you think about what Joe's saying here? He says he thinks all coordinators should not have a position group attached. What do you think about that?
In a perfect world, that would be great. You know what I mean? And I think probably with the way things are going, I think things are trending in that direction, because you can have analyst coaching and you can do, these different things. So like, does Mike Denbrock really need to be the tight ends coach? Probably not anymore. Maybe he enjoys it though. And which it's fine by me too. You know what I mean? If you're good at it and you enjoy it, great. But I think things are trending probably in the direction of coordinators not having to be. Back in the day when you only had 8 assistant coaches, you had to. Like, you didn't have or 9. I think it was 9. You had to coach a position.
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice, and there's only so many guys that can coach.
Yeah.
So,
and that's because they've opened it up so much and you can have so many assistants. It really does feel like you probably shouldn't have a position group. You're like, once you're the coordinator, you're the coordinator. Right. And, you can find quality assistants to do that. And, again, like whatever your background is, you might still lean into that a little bit more. You might give a little bit more input, again, depending on the level of experience, that your position group coach, again, like you wouldn't expect Chris Ash, to be, like all over Mike Mickens, running the secondary, because we know what a great secondary coach Mickens is.
Right. You'll see him wander over there, though.
Sure.
Guarantee it.
Yep, exactly. All right, so now we hear from another assistant coach, Mike Denbrock, talking about tight end Eli Raridon.
I mean, I think Eli's got a chance to become one of the really good ones here. Incredible size, good movement skills, toughness. I really like where he's headed as a player, and it's been nice because I think he now getting through the season mostly healthy. Last year kind of helped him build confidence that, hey, I'm okay to do this again and do it at a high level, and I think he's just going to continue to climb.
All right. So there's Mike Denbrock talking about Eli Raridon. Your expectations for Raridon are blank, Vince.
They are high but reasonable. I'm not expecting him to be Michael Mayer. I'm not even expecting him to be junior year, Mitchell Evans before the injury, right? That's not. Could he be? Yeah, he's got the athletic ability to be that. I'm just nervous about, both surgery, all the surgeries he's had and the injuries and stuff like that. Is he going to be the athletic freak that he was when he got to Notre Dame? And what's that ceiling look like? With the right guy pulling the trigger, though, he could be really good. He could be, a real red zone weapon for you. He could, middle of the field weapon by just matchups and all of those different things. You know what I mean? And so I think I'm cautiously optimistic on what Eli Raridon is going to be able to bring to the table. I did like that Mike Denbrock said he kind of had a year where now he's got some confidence. When you keep getting injured every year, you kind of lose some confidence in your body, right? Now he's got some of that confidence back. That can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the dude is 6'7", like they're like, you can't teach that skill set. 6'7", and he's got, he's got the kind of body, he's got the kind of hands. I think just my realistic expectation for Eli Raridon, like I don't have to see freak plays and stuff like that. I just think that he is now going to be like the number one guy in that room, like basic expectation, because we don't even know what the personnel packages are going to look like, because that's something else. Like Chris Ash was asked about Jalen Sneed, who we talked about in the first segment, and kind of where he is, and like he said, well, the offense is predominantly running 11 personnel this spring. So there's only so much that we as a defense can get into, because that's the look that we're getting right now, so like that bit, so again, like we don't know if we don't think it's going to be very 12 heavy. It wasn't last year. There were obviously some 12 opportunities, but we don't know, it's probably going to stick to more 11, but like could it verge into some 21 like we've talked about as well, so I just think that he's going to be the top dog in that room. And like at the end of the day, he's going to be, I think he'll probably end up being top 5 in production as a receiver, when it's all said and done this coming up season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And there's, like I said, depending on who the quarterback's going to be, he's going to have some more options, more opportunities. And I think he is a receiving tight end first. And so
depending on which quarterback it is, I mean, he could end up being the leading receiver. Again, right?
He could be number 1. Number 9 in your programs, number 1 in your hearts.
That's right. Okay, so after this week's news that Olivia Miles, Kate Koval, Emma Risch, and Kylee Watson entered the transfer portal, scale of 1 to 10, your level of concern with the Notre Dame women's basketball program right now.
So 10 is most concerned.
10 is most concerned. 1 is least concerned.
You know what? I'm going to put it at like a 5. And here's my reasoning why. I have a lot of faith in Neil Ivey and what she's going to be able to do, bringing people in from the portal and all of that. I just don't know who those people are going to be. And because of the unknown, I'm going to put it at a 5. I think it's I still think Notre Dame is a great program. I think Neil Ivey is a great coach. I think Hannah Hidalgo is a great player, right? And people are going to want to play with her. My only concern right now is that there's currently 3 scholarship players on the roster. So you got to do some significant building to get that roster back to, a usable, workable roster, right?
Sure.
That's a lot of players you got to find in the portal. I'm not saying they can't do it, but as I sit here right now on April 3rd, they got a lot of work to do. And so that's my only concern is I hope that those answers are out there in the portal and that they're not going to be strapped from a depth standpoint for next year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I have faith in the operators. It's just, are those people out there to bring in?
Yeah. Will it be as attractive? I mean, there are over 1,100 women's basketball players in the portal right now, so there are a lot of players out there. They'll be able to field a team by the time it's all said and done. It's going to be a matter my question is it going to be as attractive this year to come join the Notre Dame women's basketball team as a transfer as it was last year when you were stacked and you had all these players and, you strategically, brought in a couple of players and they did pretty well. One did really well, King obviously averaging a double-double, but, is it going to be, how much more attractive is it going to be? So to answer the question, my concern level is 3 because, as you said, they've got to add some players from the transfer portal. But even had these players stayed, they still were going to have to add at least 5 players, probably 4, if not 5 from the portal. So really, you've only got to add a couple more. Now, you obviously have to find, the right kind of pieces. But I also look at it like this. If you were the Chicago Bulls and Scottie Pippen would have gone someplace and Horace Grant would have gone someplace and Luke Longley would have gone someplace, but Michael Jordan stayed put in his prime, you were still feeling pretty good, right? You had Michael Jordan and you just had to, surround him, with the right kind of people around him. And I mean, you have Hannah Hidalgo still, and she's right now, a finalist for the John Wooden National Player of the Year award as a sophomore, and you've still got her. So you lost some free agents. You had some players, retire, i.e., their eligibility is done and that kind of stuff. You've got to put a team together, but you still have one of the best players in the country to build that roster around. So it's not, I don't think it's nearly panic level the way, some people have kind of made it out to me. Because let me put it to you like this. I'm going to give you 3 players here. Okay. Which of these 3 players would be a must-have for your team? Player A, average 5.3 points and 4.7 rebounds. Player B, average 5.1 points and 3.6 rebounds. Player C, average 5.3 points and 1.8 rebounds. Which of those 3 is a must-have?
None. 0.
And those are 3 of the 4 players that they lost, not including, obviously,
Olivia Miles, which you weren't going to get back anyway.
Exactly. I think that's kind of you weren't counting on having Olivia back anyway.
Correct.
So that's not, like, while from a talent standpoint, it's definitely a loss. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you're really not impacted by that because you weren't counting on having her back anyway. Like, those are the players, one of them played in 20 games in her career. Another, Kylee Watson, played in 114 games in her career. 4 years, her career averages 5 points and 3.5 rebounds. Like, is that really that hard to replace?
Right.
Like, nothing against her, but it's literally, like, it's a roster spot. You can find that in the portal. Like, you can find that easily in the portal. The biggest question is going to be, again, like how you bring all those pieces in and make them fit together.
100%. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. And that's going to be on Niel, and that's going to be on the coaching staff and all of that. And that's the hardest part about the transfer portal era, right? Is that exact thing. Look, TCU brought in 5 brand new starters this year. You know what I mean? And they went the Elite Eight.
I do. Yeah.
So, it can be done with the right coaching. It can absolutely be done. And so I got a lot of, like, somebody I saw, they're going to be lucky to be 500 next. Okay, slow down, relax, stop it. And I agree with you that people's opinions are definitely tainted because Olivia Miles isn't going to the WNBA.
Right.
She's going to another school.
Right.
And I think a lot of people,
and what that says, what they think that says about the coach and the program,
correct,
and everything else.
Yes,
exactly.
Yep. And she wasn't coming back. Like, she was not coming back to Notre Dame. Period. So yeah, I think that definitely clouds a lot of people's opinion right now. And the way they,
again, like the 500 thing, it's all you have to do is look at TCU, right? Like, just like you said, they brought in 9 transfers over the last 2 years, and all 5 of their starters were transfer portal players.
Right.
Now 2 of them were legit. I still don't get like all this redemption arc for Haley Van Lith. I mean, she made the decision to go to LSU. She still started for LSU. She still played for LSU. She just didn't get to be the star because there was more talent around her at LSU. Now they're making it out like, oh, people wrote her off and here she is. It's a great redemption story. Like, still playing basketball,
right?
Like, where was the dip?
Right.
There was only a dip in production because you were surrounded by better players.
And look, she had the game of her life against Notre Dame last weekend. I mean, bottom line, this is what happened. She never played that well ever. In a big moment like that. So, hey, you tip your cap. She had a good game. I still don't have to like her, and I still don't have to agree with the redemption story because it's not existent.
Yeah. And Tommy's not happy with the 1-person recruiting class. And again, look, let's say you had gone out and, like, the last couple classes, you signed a couple more players, but they were, like, instead of a top 20 player, like, they were around 90th, 95th, So now, okay, you've got those players on your roster. So, okay, great. You've got roster spots filled, but you end up starting those players and you're closer to Virginia Tech than you are to NC State or what Notre Dame was this year. Like, does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, because you're settling, for much lesser talent. Okay, you'd have some roster spots, but competitively, how good is that actually going to make you just because you have a couple roster spots filled? As I used the analogy the other day, you settle a little bit on a couple of these recruits, and then you've got Abby Prohaska as a starter in your lineup. But again, I'm not trying to pick on Abby Prohaska, but look, she transferred out of here. I think she went to the Big West when she left, San Diego State or something. I guess it wasn't the Big West, but Mountain West, whatever. It's like she went a couple steps down when she left here because that's closer to the caliber of player that she was as opposed to starter in the ACC. So, like, why would you want to settle just to fill a couple roster spots? Because then the other thing is you end up in a situation where if those players are sitting because of the transfer portal, you might just be dealing with more transfer portal stuff year in and year out because they're disgruntled because they're not playing because they're not as good as, the elite players on the roster. So like, yeah, I mean, it'd be great if you could get, maybe even, like another top 30 player or something like that. But you definitely, like, you can't start settling, or all that does, especially in a transfer portal era, is just create more issues for you that you're dealing with every year, as opposed to, like, we're only going to know this for sure, 4 or 5 years down the road. But like, to me, this is kind of the like perfect storm, once, every 5-6 years kind of thing, where everything just kind of caught up with you all at once.
Right. And you're also gonna see smaller recruiting classes across the board, because teams are going to use the transfer portal. That's part of it too. And so you're not going to see teams bring in 3, 4, 5 people anymore. Like, you're just not. So they're going to be picky. They're going to be choosy about who they bring in.
Tommy, I'm willing to give you a pass, because I'm sure that you don't like follow women's basketball like closely. Like, he asks, is Ivy no longer able to recruit top players? Literally every player that she has signed since she's been at Notre Dame has been a McDonald's High School All-American, with the exception of 2. One is Olivia Miles, and the only reason she wasn't a McDonald's All-American is because she enrolled mid-season, so she wasn't eligible to be a McDonald's All-American. And the other is Kassan Prosper, and that's because she's Canadian. And the McDonald's All-American is a United States thing. So everyone else has been a McDonald's All-American, and like most of them, like Citron, Miles, Hidalgo, Koval, they were all in that like top 10, top 5 even, in their recruiting classes. Maddie Westbeld, who was here, I think she signed with Muffet. I think she was, more like top 15, but I think it's also because I think if I remember right, like, she didn't go to like the right camp or something like that. So she wasn't rated, quite the same or something like that. So Tommy is saying his point is keep bringing them in. Well, I mean, again, like, you can't get them all every year. There are other people competing to get those players as well. Like, one is out in Storrs, Connecticut. There's a guy down there in Louisville. There's a guy down, out there in Texas, and, this woman out there in South Carolina who does pretty well bringing in talent as well. I mean, it's obviously very competitive, but, she's obviously hit, on a lot of players over an extended period of time. So yeah, it's not like she's not recruiting. It's just that, you might get one, but you're not going to get them all. And they don't want to settle too much with what, when they don't get some of the big ones.
And so, don't compare football to basketball, because there's 40.
Yeah, it's so much different because again, Hannah Hidalgo, 1 of 5 on a basketball team, is a lot different than 1 of 22 who's going to start on a football team.
Right.
Like, the impact that you can have.
Right. And then, I mean, to be honest with you, you still have a long snapper and a holder and a kicker and a punter. There's like 30 starters on a football team. There's 5 on a basketball team. Like that. It's not comparable.
Tommy, we're just going to have to agree to disagree, because
Tommy, you need to go look up recruiting classes and where they rank when she brings them in. She's got top recruiting classes every year. So,
right.
Just, you're not making the argument you think you are.
Right. Again, so last year she brought in Kate Koval, top 5 player, right? So again, if she had brought in top 5 Kate Koval, but then also brought in top 80 whoever, again, like, is top 80 whoever, okay, she's probably saying, okay, I'm on the roster, going into my sophomore season. This is an opportunity for me now. So she's going to ride it out and, be here for at least one more season. But then what happens if they bring all these other players in from the portal who are better than her, and now she's not playing? She's probably going to transfer after her sophomore year, going into her junior year, right? So, yeah. Scott says, my arguments about why losing players is no big deal falls flat. If we had top 10 caliber players staying / from high school, then sure. But Kylee, Emma, and Koval could improve. they could, but Kylee Watson has played 4 years in college at this point. So it's not a 1-year average. She's averaged 5 points and 3.5 rebounds in 4 years.
Right. She was about to get her 6th.
So you're going to panic about losing that. And again, this is not a shot at her, but the numbers are what they are, right? They could improve, but to what extent? Like, you would have expected more of a bump from junior year to senior year, and you didn't get that. Again, I think, and no, the exodus does not suggest it's a culture issue, because all you're doing is looking at your own team. Do you think that other teams aren't dealing with transfer portal issues as well? Like, this is the first time this has happened in 5 years. And you're talking about a bunch of role players, with the exception of Koval, because she is a freshman and she was so highly rated. You're talking about predominantly about a handful of role players that you're losing. So, like, why are you panicking about that? Will KK stay after she entered the portal last year? I don't like, again, like, to me, it's an opportunity for KK Bransford, to play this year now. And she did decide to stay. So we'll see. I get it, man. Like, if you're going to throw your arms up in the air, panic about it, okay. But I guarantee you, a year from now, they're going to be much better than a 500 team. They're going to be an NCAA tournament team again. And they're going to be, like, going into the last couple of weeks of the season, they'll be at a minimum competing for a top 4 seed in the ACC tournament, which means you get a double bye.
Agreed. And, let's see who they bring in too. And then we can compare who left versus who's coming in. We can put that stat line that you have for the 3 players that left versus the stat line of the players that are coming in. And we'll see where Notre Dame is at.
And the thing with Risch, like, he's talking about Risch, like, she could get better. Okay, well, she's played in 20 games in 2 years because she hasn't been healthy. So, like, there's no guarantee that she's even going to be healthy next year. And I went back and I was talking, I think it was either yesterday or the day before. Like, you remember Allie Campbell? You probably don't, but Allie Campbell was a freshman in Neil Ivy's first season. She was the Pennsylvania State Player of the Year, and everybody freaked out because she transferred after that season ended. And Allie Campbell went, transferred to Penn State. She ended up playing at Penn State, and she averaged 5 points over the course of her career after everybody freaked out that Neil Ivy, year one, lost the best player, ran the best player off, whatever else. Like, we live in a transfer portal era now. So it's like, it's not like, just because you have a couple transfers and you have one season like this over the course of the last 4, that doesn't mean the culture of the team's bad and she's lost the team. All it means is you have individual players making individual decisions for themselves about where they want their careers to go. And like Watson, just like Miles, went into the portal with a no contact thing. So obviously she's been talking to somebody and she knows exactly where she wants to go as well.
Right. Yep. Agree.
And look, now I'm not even going to go any farther.
You're beating a dead
because I'm not going to convince anybody one way or the other.
That's fine. Like I said,
if you want to be panicked, you'll be panicked.
Right.
But I think that when everything comes through the wash, I think it'll be fine in the long run.
I'm holding out judgment until I see who's coming in, and I'll compare it to who left.
And that's the other thing we don't know,
so
obviously, yet as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So the NFL voted this week to change its overtime rules to guarantee that each team gets the ball at least once in overtime. Do you buy or sell the change?
I mean, as a fan, I buy it, because if it's an overtime game, it's probably going to be exciting, and you want both teams to have an opportunity. Sure, I'll buy that. But I'm selling it in the culture of everybody gets a trophy kind of a situation. Like,
but that's your answer to everything, Vince. It's like, oh, everybody gets a trophy. Now we got to give everybody the ball in overtime.
Everybody gets a chance. Everybody gets an opportunity. How about you make an opportunity and you stop them so that you can have an opportunity. Like, you lost the coin toss. Sorry. I mean, to be honest with you, like, if a team, we've seen it before, like a team could hold the ball for basically an entire quarter and you don't get the ball. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. If you can't stop them, you don't deserve to get the ball. Like, that's kind of how I feel.
Well, but I mean, there is the case. There are two sides to the ball in football. There's offense, special teams also, but I mean, there are two sides to the ball. So, like, you're saying it should all rest on your defense, and your offense should never have a chance to take the field by that argument. Because the old rule, if the team who got the ball first, who happened to win a random coin toss, went down and scored a touchdown, the game was over. So all this does is guarantee that even if the first team scores a touchdown, the second team is at least going to get an opportunity to have the ball.
Okay. Like I said, as a fan, I'm good. As a football coach, I'm annoyed. But as a fan, I'm good with it.
Well, like, as a football coach, like you coached in high school, where the rules are, modified from college, but every team gets the ball at least once in high school in overtime as well.
More place to score from the 10-yard line.
Yeah. Like, personally, I think in the NFL, I would rather see them just do what college does, but like instead of starting
like with a kickoff.
Yeah, like start off at the 40 or even, the 50-yard line and make you have to move into field goal range, something like that. I would much rather see that.
Yeah, because starting at the 25, you're already in field goal range. So, like, I would start them a little bit further back than they even do in college. Yeah, start them at the 50. I think that's fair because, I mean, you've got kickers making 60-yard field goals, right? So you only have to gain like 10 yards and you're already in field goal range for some of these guys. So, yeah, I would be okay with that too. Like, just eliminate the kickoff. Like, don't play it like a normal football game. It's overtime. Like, hockey's got a shootout. Soccer has a shootout. Like, let's go. I would be much more in favor of a college style overtime than I would the NFL overtime.
Yeah, I buy it though. I like the fact that they're giving each team the ball. I think the bigger question, like in regular season games, feels to me like you might just be increasing the odds that a game is going to end in a tie rather than one, like actually having a winner or a loser. And that is much more, like everybody gets a trophy, gets a ribbon kind of thing to me than anything. So I added one in here because the NFL made another change. They are going to technology to measure first downs this season. They're going to use this Sony Hawkeye virtual measurement system. There's going to be, I think there's going to be a chip in the football, and they're going to have this
chip in the ball. Okay.
Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10. How much do you like this move? Going with technology over old school chain gangs.
So are they still going to have the chain gang out there? Or they're getting rid of them?
The chain gang will still be out there as a backup. And, I think for visuals so that you can, like you can see, where the first down is and all that stuff, but will actually be this Hawkeye system with 8K cameras, 6 8K cameras for optimal tracking of the ball's position, according to what I read that they're going to do.
I would like a best of both worlds situation. I would say stick with the chain gang, but if you're going out to measure, then you go to the Hawkeye or whatever you want to call it. And it makes it that much easier. I hate when they come out for measurements. It's the most unscientific way to figure out if there's an actual first down or not. You know what I mean? Like you see these old guys just trotting out there and they
got the little marker.
And
that's why they're doing this. That's why like they've had this technology for a long time. And so it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's like, what took so long to finally get here?
I completely agree. I just want them to use the chain gang like most of the time, and then if you have to measure, then you go to the replay or whatever.
Right. I mean, if it's obvious, basically this is going to come into play when you're talking about these inches situations. Like, and I think what spurred it was the Buffalo Bills thought they should have had the first down, against in the playoffs, and they couldn't. The conclusion, the replay system ruled against them. So now you've got digital technology will measure it, down to the centimeter. And so you'll know. then, again, like the chains will still be out there. So you can see it.
I would have been against it if they took the chains away. I'm sorry. I like the chain gang. I do.
All right. We're going to finish with some Val Kilmer here today.
I'm ready. I did my research. I'm ready.
Awesome. Here we go. So we talked about Val Kilmer passing away this week on yesterday's show. Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football today said Tombstone is a better movie than Top Gun. Do you buy or sell that?
Huge sell. Not even close. Terrible take. Terrible take.
I agree. I love Kilmer. I love Kilmer in Tombstone. I like Tombstone, but to me, I think like Kilmer's Doc Holliday is probably the best thing about the whole movie. Like little over the top in some points, with a lot of the acting, a little overly dramatic. So I just think, I mean, everything about Top Gun, we've both been in, I think, like we're totally in on that, right? I mean, Tom Kaczynski, Iceman, the bar scene, hey, you figured it out yet? Who's the best? Like you've got the beach volleyball scene, like Tom Cruise, obviously, you're everyone's problem and you're danger. I guess we're not even talking about Val Kilmer's thing, but I mean, like Cruise is the perfect hero. Anthony Edwards is the perfect best friend. Kilmer is the perfect antagonist. It's great. It's a great 80s movie is what it is.
100%. Volleyball.
Not to mention the music, Danger Zone, Take My Breath Away. I think Take My Breath Away by Berlin won an Oscar for music for Top Gun, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The only part about Top Gun I don't like is the love story. I just can't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, little. Bourbon says he always liked Real Genius. Well, there's always one. No, I mean I remember Real Genius didn't kind of hold up like some of the other 80s comedies. I remember watching it and it was, it seemed like it was pretty good for its time, but never quite held up, I think, like some of the others. Okay, so next question. If you could have made Val Kilmer a co-star in another Tom Cruise movie, so in other words, Tom Cruise is still in the movie, but you add Val Kilmer as a co-star in another role in the movie, what movie would it be?
I wonder, I don't know if we're going to be the same on this one or not. Excuse me.
I'm really curious to see what you're going to say, honestly.
Yeah. It's Days of Thunder.
Ooh. So you make him
Rowdy.
Who played Rowdy? The guy from Princess Bride, right?
I can tell you in a second.
Wasn't that who it was?
Let's see here. I'm trying to find the cast here. Rowdy Burns, Michael Rooker.
Oh, not who I thought it was. That's not a bad. I haven't seen Days of Thunder in a million years, but that's
Click. You're thinking of Russ Wheeler, Carrie Elwes, or whatever his name is.
There you go.
He's the one that took over for Tom Cruise when Tom was injured.
That's right.
But
that's how long ago it's been since I've seen that. Yeah.
His original nemesis was Rowdy Burns, and that's Val Kilmer, man.
I think that would have been kind of tough though, because like a lot of people basically thought that Days of Thunder was Top Gun and race cars.
Right, which is why it's perfect.
Yeah.
I get to see him driving along, and they get side by side, and he looks over, does the teeth, like Iceman.
Mike is not happy. He says it's ridiculous to even mention Top Gun as the same sentence as Tombstone. Not even close. Yeah, you're right, because Top Gun is the better movie, and it's not even close.
You're right. It is ridiculous, Mike. You are 100% correct.
Mike also said Interview with the Vampire. Isn't that the one Cruise and Pitt? If I remember that right?
Yeah, that's Pitt.
So he could be the Pitt role. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Salty said Mission Impossible 23, which is not that far in the future, I don't think. All right, Christopher, checking out. Appreciate you being here, as always. I went with a few good men. I really kind of had a hard time after coming up with this, because like I originally kind of thought Cocktail, but like the counterpart is an older guy, and he kind of had to be older to have that wisdom. They would have been the same age. Yeah. But I mean, like, that would have made sense, but it was also around the same time as Top Gun. I went with A Few Good Men, and I feel like Kilmer could have either been the Kevin Bacon, like the lawyer.
Yeah.
Or he could have been the lieutenant, Kiefer Sutherland. He could have been like, again, like the antagonist. Either way, he's a little bit of an antagonist, but
yeah,
I feel like he could have been either one of those in A Few Good Men.
I could see both of those. I could. Yeah, I could see both of those. That's I thought like when you first said it, I was thinking like his buddy that was on his same legal team, and I was like, I don't see that.
Yeah, not Kevin Pollak. No.
Yeah,
no,
I didn't see that one. But yes, Kevin Bacon I could see, and Kiefer Sutherland I could see for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Also, would have kind of been fun if he had been in Mission Impossible, like Salty said, Mission Impossible 23. Like, if he would have been in the Mission Impossible with him, like they could have been, like they could have made like 10 movies together, something like that. I don't know if he probably wouldn't have wanted to be the sidekick, but that could have been fun as well. Considering, like as Kilmer's career went on, it's not like he was making a bunch of big hits for the most part.
This is true. That is very, very true. Yeah.
What about sports movie? Is there a sports movie you would have put?
Well, obviously, Days of Thunder is the one that originally came to mind. Now, I had a hard time with this one because a lot of the sports movies, they just have kind of iconic roles to them, and kind of fitting him in is very difficult for me. What did you come up with for a sports movie?
Can I give you Vision Quest?
Oh, wow.
Not Matthew Modine. He's either Shoot, like the guy that Matthew Modine wrestles at the end, or he's Cooch, who's Matthew Modine's, best friend. The guy who was said he was, he claimed that he was of Indian heritage, but he turned out that he wasn't actually of Indian heritage. I feel like Val Kilmer could have easily, because again, it's like mid 80s. He's still in really good shape and all that. Like, think of how good a shape he was in Top Gun, for example.
Okay. I can see that.
So that's what I came up with.
Okay. Not bad. How about the Russian guy from one of those Rocky movies?
Ooh. Yeah, like he could have been Drago.
Drago, that's what it was. Yeah.
I don't know how tall Val Kilmer was. Like, maybe that
fair.
It might not have worked.
He towered over Tom Cruise, but that doesn't mean anything.
That's true. He could have been a sparring partner for Stallone. All right, so you couldn't come up with a sports movie then?
Well, I just did. I just said Drago from Rocky.
So okay, Drago from Rocky. That's your answer. Okay,
that's where I'm going to go. Days of Thunder. I consider that a sports movie.
Oh, that's true.
As a sport.
That's true. That's actually that's a really good call. I like that.
I said,
literally, I think when it came out, people
were
like, "Oh, it's Top Gun in a race car."
I mean, that's they're not wrong, is the thing, which I think is hilarious. They're not wrong at all. Whoever said that, which is probably why I like that movie. To be perfectly honest with you,
DK says Kilmer is Rudy. Now that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's D-Bob.
Yeah. Like the later version of Val Kilmer could have been D-Bob, but
Salty, this is a good one. He could have been Chet in Weird Science. That would have been a good one. All right. Well, I think we used all our Val Kilmer content for today, Vince.
Mike wants him in Varsity Blues. Would he be the coach?
Was that I Don't Want Your Life? He might have been too old. He might have been too old by then.
Vanderbeek, because that movie came out in 1998.
Probably would have had to be a coach by then.
Yeah, Val Kilmer was probably pushing 40, 35 at that point. So,
right.
Yeah.
North Dallas 40. Like, that could have been one they could have made a remake of.
That's true.
I like it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. We will be back mañana. We've got plenty of more Notre Dame football talk that we'll have going into the weekend. We've got a practice coming up on Saturday. So looking forward to Brian says McGruber. Was he in McGruber?
I don't even know what McGruber is.
McGruber is the Saturday Night Live spoof of MacGyver.
Okay.
And it had Will Forte as the lead guy. Was Val Kilmer also in MacGruber? I don't remember that.
You got me on that one.
Are you looking?
No, I was looking for oh yeah, so you're the one that sent it today about Val Kilmer was Iceman the later years.
Oh, did you? That was hilarious.
That was fantastic.
He went on Saturday Night Live a few years later, and they did a sketch called Iceman the Later Years. And he goes in, and it's like Will Ferrell and one of the other guys. I can't remember who it was, but he comes into the cockpit of this.
He's like an airline pilot.
He's like an airline pilot, and he keeps, he's like throwing out, like
dangerous.
Yeah, I'm dangerous. You're dangerous. Coming up on my 6. He's like, he's having Top Gun flashbacks while he's the pilot of a passenger
Look,
plane.
Is that the guy who always brags about being at that Top Gun school?
Right. He's got a hat that says Iceman on it.
That was really, really good. That was really well conceived.
I was laughing out loud when I saw. I'd never seen that before. That was awesome.
Me neither. I don't know how that got lost. Because it is fantastic.
I need to see if I can find the whole thing because I don't even think it was the whole thing.
No, it couldn't have been because it was only 2 minutes long and it was obviously got cut off. I need to find the full one too because that was so good.
Yep. All right. Well, that is going to do it for today. Appreciate you being here. Good feedback, good comments as always. And hit that like button before you leave. And we will talk to you tomorrow on Aviation Sports Talk.